June 5th, 2002, my guest was kidnapped at knifepoint from her bedroom in Salt Lake City, Utah. She ended up in captivity with these people for 9 months. She suffered every type of abuse you can possibly imagine. If you could talk to someone, Elizabeth, who's in toxic to all the way up to physically abusive relationship, what would you say to someone who's in that spot?
They say 1 in 3 women experience sexual abuse in their lifetime. That is a horrific statistic. And just the fact that so many of them suffer in silence. I am so lucky that what happened to me came at the hands of a stranger. But if it's by someone that you know, someone that you love, or maybe the people that you love, how do you overcome that? Because so many victims, when they hear those words, why didn't you? They hear the words, you should have. That's how their brain hears it. You should have done more. It's your fault. You should have done something else. And I think that's easy to get into our minds, that men are just always stronger than us, more powerful than us. If a man attacks you, there's nothing you can do. But that is not true. Yep. You are so powerful. You are much stronger than you think you are. Please become the kind of person that if anyone disclosed to you, that you could sit there and be a support to them. And that your first words are not, why didn't you do this? And that your first words instead are, I believe you. I'm here for you. I love you. And if we're all talking about this and we're all learning about this and standing up for those around us when we see something suspicious going on, think of how much change we could actually create in this world. We could see the statistics drop. Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be incredible?
So hey guys, listen, we're all trying to get more productive, and the question is, how do you find a way to get an edge? I'm a big believer that if you're getting mentoring or you're in an environment that causes growth, a growth-based environment, that you're much more likely to grow and you're going to grow faster. And that's why I love Growth Day. Growth Day is an app that my friend Brendan Burchard has created that I'm a big fan of. Write this down, growthday.com/ed. So if you want to be more productive, by the way, he's asked me, I post videos in there every single Monday that get your day off to the right start. He's got about $5,000, $10,000 worth of courses that are in there that come with the app. Also, some of the top influencers in the world are all posting content in there on a regular basis, like having the Avengers of personal development and business in one app. And I'm honored that he asked me to be a part of it as well and contribute on a weekly basis, and I do. So go over there and get signed up. You're going to get a free, tuition-free voucher to go to an event with Brendan and myself and a bunch of other influencers as well. So you get a free event out of it also. So go to growthday.com/ed. That's growthday.com/ed. Welcome back to the show, everybody. So today's a special show. I've wanted to talk to this woman for over a decade. I wanted to talk to her before I even had a podcast, because her story is unbelievable. Most of you know who she is, but those of you that might be a little bit younger, you may not. So let me give you a little refresher. June 5th, 2002, my guest was kidnapped at knifepoint from her bedroom in Salt Lake City, Utah by a guy named Brian David Mitchell. And his wife Wanda helped a little bit too. And she ended up in captivity with these people for 9 months, during which she was often moved all over the place. She suffered every type of abuse you can possibly imagine during those 9 months, every type you can imagine. And I remember watching, thinking, this little girl is gone. I remember thinking she was gone. And then shockingly, in March of 2003, Elizabeth was found and rescued in Sandy, Utah, only about 18 miles from her house. And since that time, spoiler alert, she's lived an amazing life of contribution. She's turned that tragedy into something just absolutely miraculous. She is the founder of the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, which we're going to talk about today. But when you talk about resilience, toughness, a comeback, whatever you want to call it, there's probably nobody on earth I'd rather talk to, and I mean that, than this woman about those topics. And so Elizabeth Smart, finally, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, good. And by the way, guys, on YouTube, she's smiling, which means she is really, really happy to be. She's got a cold today, but we're gonna power through. Any of you have gone through any type of trauma in your life, probably difficult to compare to hers, but you've gone through trauma, or you're just going through a hard time right now, and you need some resiliency skills and some comeback skills. We're gonna go through those things today. So I don't even know where to begin, but I think what I want to do is at least go back a little bit, but I want to spend the majority of the time on what you're doing now. But I want to go back just a little bit. And I'm wondering, the day you get abducted, if you could go back to yourself at 14, Elizabeth, if you could even put yourself there again, what would you say to that little girl as she's got to be terrified and scared and being whisked away? What would you whisper to her if you could go back and say something to her?
That's a good question. There was nothing that could have prepared me for that moment. There wasn't anything that anyone could have said leading up to it that would have altered what happened or, I don't know, changed how I reacted because I had lived such a sheltered life. I had, never experienced like anything bad. I came from a loving family. I lived in a nice neighborhood. I lived in a nice home. Like, this was just something that was so far removed from anything that had ever happened to me. I don't think that there's actually anything that could have prepared me, but I think if I was going to say something, I would tell myself, don't give up. You will
Mhm.
survive this. Just make it through every day as it comes.
Mhm. Every day, one day at a time. It's interesting. Anything traumatic, like that adage works. I can't possibly imagine what one day for you was like as a little girl. I'm just having a daughter, just, missing your mom and dad, the abuse that you're taking daily, wondering if it's ever going to end or you're going to be found. Was there a point, and by the way, it would be completely acceptable. I'm just curious, was there a point where you no longer believed you were going to be found and this was going to be it forever? Did you eventually just kind of give into that as a reality?
There were definitely moments where I thought that this might be my reality until my captors died, which, like, in my mind at the time, I was like, that could be another 30 years. So I felt like there was a good chance I would outlive them.
Mhm.
Um, but like being rescued, making it home, like it felt like it was far away. Yeah, there were plenty of those times.
One thing that's just mind blowing to me about that time, and again, guys, we're going to shift into the tools and the things she's accomplished since and what she's learned. But one thing that blew my mind about this story, because I'm watching it as a young man and I'm thinking, this little girl's gone. You don't find someone in 9 months, right? And and then to learn later these people like walked you into town several times. Like you were right there near, I think a police officer actually pulled your guy over. Did he not? Like you were that close to being rescued multiple times. Most people don't know that part of the story.
It was very close. And actually, that's probably one of the more common questions I get asked is, well, why didn't you run? Why didn't you scream? Why didn't you say anything? And I feel like it's important to address that because I feel like, although my experience is different from many other survivors, this instance is very common. I mean, we see it in domestic violence situations where people are like, you had a car. Why didn't you just drive away? If your husband was beating you, why didn't you just leave? It's never just as simple as like getting in a car and going away. For me, it wasn't as simple as like just screaming out and being like, I'm Elizabeth Smart, come save me.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I wanted to, I had already spent months in captivity. I'd already been through huge amounts of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been threatened repeatedly that if I said or did anything they didn't want me to do, that they'd kill me, that they would kill my family. They felt invincible to me. He'd
Mm-hmm.
bring back missing posters of the search efforts for me. He'd talk about how Salt Lake City was just covered in my face and there were blue ribbons everywhere tied around trees, all in like remembrance of me. And he'd just laugh about it. And he'd be like, all of Salt Lake is looking for you, but no one will ever find you because I have you. And that felt like that was the truth. And so he really did feel like he was invincible. And when he made threats, they were not idle threats. I mean, the threats that he made, he followed through with enough of them that I truly believed that he would kill me or that he would kill my family if I didn't do exactly what he said. Now, as an adult and like having been in this space in hindsight, when I speak to survivors, I often talk about how like parents should talk to their children and be like, if anyone ever tells you to keep a secret, you need to tell me. And if anyone ever says, like, we will get hurt, that's not your job to protect us. Our job is to protect you. And
Mm-hmm.
so trying to keep those lines of communication open, I think, are so important. But that burden was also very heavy on my shoulders. I felt like it was my responsibility to protect my family. So I did what I was
Mm-hmm.
told.
I just had a friend. It's ironic that we're talking. I have a female friend. She's just incredibly strong woman. Like she's like like a badass, you know. And but in her first relationship, her first relationship was abusive. She lived with a man who was abusive, and it's almost impossible now for me to picture her staying. To your point, like, why'd you stay? And she said a couple things. She said, well, one, your identity is completely stripped of you. So you're not thinking in a way of a strong person. It's been taken from you. And she had the other thing was these threats he made. I believed them. And I think this judgment that we have, any of you listening to this today that are in a relationship that you know you need to get out of, maybe you're in it, you're afraid to leave because there's physical abuse. Maybe they've emotionally abused you to the point where you don't love or believe in yourself anymore. Maybe they've stripped your identity from you. Maybe you're afraid to leave because financially you can't afford to be on your own. Maybe some of you in a relationship that you aren't going to leave because of the social judgment of what people are going to think that you didn't make it as a couple. If you could talk to someone, Elizabeth, who's in some varying degree, because there's degrees of everything, of a toxic to all the way up to physically abusive relationship, and they know in their heart, this isn't where I belong. I don't belong here. Clearly you didn't. What would you say to someone who's in that spot?
Yeah, I would want them to know they are so strong. They are so strong that they can do hard things.
Mm,
And it's going to be hard. It is going to be scary
mm,
leaving the abusive relationship. It is going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy, but it is going to be worth it because there are so many good people in this world who want to help, who have built organizations and companies and offered programs around trying to help survivors get out of these horrific situations. And unfortunately, not everyone is always blessed to be born into a supportive family. But
mm,
these people that you come into contact with, you find your family, you choose your family. And
mm,
so do not give up. You're so strong. You can do
mm,
hard things. And
mm.
and you deserve to be happy. You don't deserve to be in pain. You don't deserve to be hurt.
I remember when you got rescued. I'm just going to speak candidly. I have an hour with you. And I remember when you got rescued, I was thinking, first off, I couldn't believe you were rescued because everyone thought you were gone. And then I remember going, I mean, I'm just be candid. She's going to be a mess. There's just no way that 9 months, what she's gone through, there's no way she's going to become a functional contributory person. Bless her heart. I felt only empathy and no hope when I thought of you. I'm saying that candidly because I think that was probably what the majority of people thought. I'm curious about one, the day you were rescued, what those emotions were like, if you could even remember, and how did you? I mean, listen to you with the foundation and smart defense and a couple books and all the stuff. And by the way, a loving marriage and family you created of your own. The broad question first, then we'll get specifics. What was it like the day you were rescued, and how in the world have you turned out the way you have?
The day that I was rescued, I mean, it was a roller coaster. Like it was scary. I didn't always know what was going on, but ultimately at the end of the day, when I finally made it back to my home, I felt like everything that had been taken away from me had all of a sudden been given back.
Mm,
And I just remember feeling like I never wanted to miss out on anything ever again. I felt like I'd already missed out on so much. And so I wanted to I wanted to live my life. I wanted to do all the things that I had ever dreamed of because those had felt like they'd been taken away from me and I just didn't want to miss out on anything.
mm,
So
mm.
that was how I felt the day that I came home. And then sorry, what was your second question?
Well, how'd you, the broad one, because we're going to get specific to what you teach in a second, but like, how the heck did this turn out so well?
Oh,
I mean, like, was it intensive therapy, prayer, the combination of all of the above? I mean, we're going to go through your steps in a second, but just broadly speaking, it's unbelievable how seemingly not just normal but exceptional your life has become.
I think a lot of it had to do with like the way I was raised. I did grow up in a very loving, like solid, secure family. Like I never doubted as a child whether or not I was wanted or whether I was loved. Like I always knew that. And I think that really made the difference for me because when I came back, that didn't change. My
Mm,
family still treated me the way that I'd always been treated. And
mm,
as I look back on what happened, I chose not to go to therapy
Mm,
after I was rescued because I did not understand what therapy was.
mm,
In my mind, it was just like it was going to be going to someone who couldn't possibly understand what I'd been through and
yeah,
rehashing everything that I'd been through. And I remember just thinking in my mind, well, why would I want to do that? I already survived it.
mm,
Nobody was there beside me while I was going through all that. It would have
mm,
been nice to talk to someone while I was going through that, but I'm not going through that anymore. So why would I want to talk about it with someone who couldn't possibly understand what it was
mm.
like while I was there? That was uh, my very uneducated thoughts around therapy at the
Yeah.
time. So I didn't want to. Of course, that scared my parents. Um,
Mhm,
they were very worried about me, and so they actually went to therapy
mm,
instead.
mhm, mm,
And their therapist was like, "It's okay. Like, it's okay. If she doesn't want to go to therapy, that's fine. But
mm,
both of you need to make sure that you are in a place that if she ever decides to talk about what happened, you can listen to her and be there for her without crumbling yourselves." So
mm.
actually, they did go to therapy.
That's so interesting, and not you. Did there become a, this is where I wanted to go, but did there become a time where you did want to talk about it, or is that just that time's never arrived? You just dealt with it internally.
Um, no, I never wanted to talk about it.
Wow.
Um, but then when my case finally came to trial,
Yeah.
well, it's a little bit, I guess, of a longer story. Initially, my parents were told that if I would talk to these two psychiatrists, that they could stand as proxy for me, as witness for me, in the trial. So probably the day after I was rescued, I went to the Children's Justice Center. I was brought into this room with these two psychiatrists, and they were men. They were roughly the age of my captors. They were clearly clearly religious, which like that's fine. Like good for everyone, or like
Mhm.
believing whatever they want to believe and practicing it, being dedicated to it. But having come out of a situation where religion was used to justify every kind of torture they did to me, that just was not a very comfortable situation for me. And being
Gosh.
left alone in this room. And then, they did question me extensively. Again, like I'd grown up in a bubble. I had lived an incredibly sheltered life. Um, I I mean, my parents didn't just like throw around uh the words penis, vagina,
Hmm.
breasts. I mean, they were your privates. That was how it
Hmm.
was referred to. Those are your privates. And
Hmm.
so all of a sudden having to go into great graphic detail and use those words, penis, vagina, that
Hmm.
was very uncomfortable and difficult for me.
Hmm.
And because they were psychiatrists, I thought, oh, this must be what therapy's like. No, thank you. I never want to do this. Um, my case really got stuck in the courts. There
Wow.
was always a question of competence or versus incompetence.
Mm.
Were they competent right now? Could they prove that they were competent when they kidnapped me? Um, they would need to be forced medication. I mean, it was just like a whole big mess to the point where the statute of limitations actually
What?
almost came up
Wow.
um, within the state courts. And so then I was
That's
approached and asked if I wanted to move my case to the federal courts. And of course, I wanted to move my case to the federal courts if my captors got out. Like, they would
I
have
did
come
not know
back
this.
after me. I have no doubt they would have come back after me. So, my case was then moved to the federal courts, and it was, I mean, the better part of a decade before my case actually made it
Oh
to
my
trial.
God. Oh my gosh.
Um, it was, of course, by then, the two psychiatrists, they were no longer allowed to testify for me. I was an adult by then. And so I had to testify myself, and that was the the interviewing with the prosecution. Preparing for the trial was the first time that I really went into detail about what happened, and on the stand that I guess was about as public as I had ever been,
My
talking
gosh.
about what happened. And in that moment, I just felt like all of this, like all of my story, everything that I'm talking about um, is coming across like facts, just like bullet points. And this is my life. And it's more than just bullet points. And if I'm going to share like the worst moments of my life, it needs to be more than just
Mm,
entertainment, or it needs to be more than just a court case. And so that's really when it was after that that we started the Elizabeth Smart Foundation. It was after that that I started publicly speaking and sharing my story. Unfortunately, sexual
mhm.
violence is so common, is so high. Like I know without a doubt, anytime I speak, that I am not the only survivor in the room. Uh,
Wow.
so
Wow.
like whenever I'm invited to speak, it doesn't really matter who the audience is, because statistically, I'm not the only survivor in there.
It's unbelievable. First off, I did not know that it took a decade. I did know you confronted, the abuser in court. I think it would surprise most people listening to this right now, Elizabeth, that first off, that they put a little girl one day later in with two dudes that look just like the guy that abducted her. I mean, that's more abuse in my mind. So that's shocking. But the other part that's probably pretty surprising, I think you would agree, was that you really didn't talk about it until you were on that stand. That's surprising to people, that you didn't do therapy, that you didn't talk about it. That would be not what most people would guess. And I want to talk about the Elizabeth Smart Foundation in a second, but I want to connect it to what you teach because I want them to understand the value they get from it. So, hey guys, I want to jump in here for a second and talk about change and growth. And, by the way, it's no secret how people get ahead in life or how they grow. And also taking a look at the future. If you want to change your future, you got to change the things you're doing. If you continue to do the same things, you're probably going to produce the same results. But if you get into a new environment where you're learning new things and you're around other people that are growth oriented, you're much more likely to do that yourself. And that's why I love Growth Day. Write this down for a second. growthday.com/ed. My friend Brendan Bouchard has created the most incredible personal development and business app that I've ever seen in my life. Everything from goal setting software to personal accountability, journaling, courses, thousands of dollars worth of courses in there as well. I create content in there on Mondays where I contribute, as do a whole bunch of other influencers, like the Avengers of influencers and business minds in there. It's the Netflix for high achievers or people that want to be high achievers. So go check it out. My friend Brennan's made it very affordable, very easy to get involved. Go to growthday.com/ed. That's growthday.com/ed. So it's no secret I travel a lot. And you know what I just did? I just treated myself. I treated myself by upgrading all of my travel stuff, by my suitcases, the carry bag that I've got. And for a lot of you, vacation season's coming up as well. So you know what? Maybe it's time you get some good vacation plans in place and treat yourself well for a first-class quality suitcase at an economy price tag from Quince. I just did it. I love it. So this year, I treated myself to some luxe upgrades. They got lightweight shirts and shorts from $30, pants for every occasion, lounge sets, and premium luggage options that are durable, from duffel bags to big carry-ons. So the best part, all Quince items are priced at 50 to 80% less than similar brands. For your next trip, treat yourself to the luxe upgrades you deserve from Quince. Go to quince.com/ed for 365 returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/ed to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/ed. So any of you that have gone through something, you've heard this term now, PTSD, right? And that can be from everything from someone who's a war fighter to someone who's gone through physical abuse, emotional abuse in a relationship. They even attribute that to people like myself who grew up in an alcoholic or drug addicted family. There's again, varying degrees. And you talk about post-traumatic growth. What does that mean? Like, what's it mean to you personally? Post-traumatic growth.
To me, like if I'm just going to explain it using my words,
Yeah.
when going through something really hard, I feel like you have a choice to make. I think it's a very, very difficult choice. And I don't think it's just like flicking a switch. It's not like on and off. But
Mm,
basically, you choose, do you allow what's happened to you to crush you? Or do you use that as a propellant to push you forward and to like live your life to the fullest, to do something greater than what you ever imagined beforehand.
Mm,
So me, it's pushing yourself forward. It's not letting it stop you from living your life.
mm. I had this thing I say on a lot of my content. I say, you're most qualified in life to help the person you used to be. And I just really believe that. I think God takes us through our darkest and most difficult times, or even the things we're ashamed of or embarrassed of, or sins or mistakes we've made, and wants us to use those things to serve the people that are similar to us, that are like us. One of the things, you guys, about the foundation, I'm like, oh, that's great. She's got a foundation. Everybody's got a foundation. That's cool. She's got a big brand name. But if you actually really look into this foundation, you guys, the work they do is tremendous. Like, it's the real deal. And even on how to learn to defend yourself through smart defense. Like, there's teeth to this. There's actual tangible things you would learn and go through. I would ask you about forgiveness. And I wonder, do you ever get there? Forgive yourself, forgive them, and what that concept means to you. And does it matter in life?
So I I think forgiveness, maybe my definition's a little different. I don't know. But I don't think forgiveness is necessarily like, oh, what you did is okay. Like, it's all right. I mean, at the end of the day, like, kidnapping's always going to be kidnapping, rape is always going to be rape. Like, there's no world that exists that I'm ever going to think kidnapping someone is okay or raping
Yeah.
someone is okay.
Yeah.
I think forgiveness is really more for me. And I think it's more just the letting go of the anger over what happened
Mm,
more than anything else. I actually think probably forgiveness is probably the greatest form of self-love that you can have for yourself.
mm,
Because you love yourself enough that you aren't going to let whatever you've experienced ruin the rest of your life. You are
mm,
like you've felt the anger, you've processed it, you've gone through it, but then you're also able to leave it alone and move forward. And to me, that's what forgiveness is. So,
mm,
do I feel like I've forgiven my captors? Yes, but I never want to see them again. I never
mhm,
want to have anything to do with them again. I could happily live the rest of my life and never think of them or have anything to do with them or see a
mhm,
picture of them ever again. That would be just fine with me.
mhm. I imagine that might be one of the most perfectly said things ever said on the show. The way you just described that concept, that was that was awesome. Here's what I didn't know. I wanted to ask you about it because you've become an expert on this stuff. How does trauma reshape your brain? Like, literally, because I know you've done a little bit of looking into this. How does trauma reshape your brain? And then how do you reclaim your power when you've lost all of it? Like, you got no power in your life. You're powerless completely. Are those two things connected? It's reshaped your brain so you don't think you're powerful anymore. Like, how does it affect your brain? And how do you get some sense of power back?
I mean, I think everything's connected. And
Mm,
what's really interesting about trauma is that when you go through something very traumatic, like if you look at me, I don't have any like physical scars from when I was abducted. Like I don't
mm,
have any knife wounds or like, I mean, I was never stabbed with a knife, but the knife was held to my neck. Like I don't have any scarring on my neck. I don't have I don't have any like physical markers on my body that would show to you that I went through something traumatic.
mm,
And probably if you didn't know me at all and you just met me, you wouldn't think that I ever had a hard day in my life.
mm,
But guess.
mm.
But if you actually look at the brain, so I went and had a brain scan in Dr. Amon's clinic
I love him.
last fall. And there are physical markers that show up on your brain when you've
Mm,
experienced trauma. So it shows up in a diamond pattern, and the diamond pattern did show up in my brain. Um,
mm,
so there are physical markers on your brain left by trauma. So even if you don't have scarring or broken bones or black eyes, trauma still leaves its mark. And
mm,
yes, I am not the expert he is. I am not an
mhm,
expert.
mhm,
But my understanding is that yes, it does very much and can affect like how you process things and decisions you make moving forward. That's not to say that you are less than or impaired next to
Sure.
anyone else. It just affects you, which makes sense. I mean, all of our experiences affect us. If you had a
Mm,
really bad experience walking home at night in the dark, you might not want to again. Like that
mm,
makes sense, right?
mm.
Um, and so yes, it does affect us.
This is personal, but I want to know if you don't mind, because you've not talked about it a lot, and your relationship with your husband is personal, so I'm not going to go there. Do you flash back? Will you be driving in the car and have a moment, and then if you do, I'll give you why I ask. In my little tiny speck of a way, it's not even in the same universe as what you went through. I will flash back sometimes to some pretty difficult moments when I was a little boy. And I really wish I didn't, but I do. I'm wondering if you, in a random moment or a trigger, will flash you back for a second. And if it doesn't happen, wonderful. If it does, is there something you do to flip the switch, so to speak, out of that state?
Um, well, there's two parts to the question, or two things that I want to address that you said.
Mm,
One of the things you said, oh, like I don't want to get into a relationship with your husband, but that is actually also something that is very commonly asked, surprisingly enough. Like
okay.
you were raped, how could you then be intimate with your partner?
Yeah.
And that is actually a space that I very much would like to move into in the future with the
Really?
Smart Foundation, because so many survivors. First of all, I want to establish that sex and healthy intimacy are different. They're not
Mm,
the same thing. And then I want to have the conversation and uh,
great.
like explore with survivors, how do you move past that? Uh,
Mm,
that is a future project I very much want to do. We don't have
wow.
anything yet, but that is something I feel very passionate about, because everyone deserves to have a full life. Everyone
Mm,
deserves to feel loved and adored and taken care of. And they should know that abuse is not like healthy intimacy, and healthy
mm,
intimacy is not rape. Um, like
mm,
you should be able to have a very clear separation of those two. And so if a survivor
mm,
has gone through it, like they deserve to find some love with someone else and to feel
mm.
taken care of. So that is something in the
That's
future.
major work you'd be doing there. That's tremendous.
Yes,
That's
that is something
tremendous.
I very much want to get
Yeah,
into.
I love it.
Um, do I ever have flashbacks, and how do I deal with it? I
Mm,
wouldn't say that I struggle with them a lot. They
mm-hmm,
happen occasionally where I'm just like, oh my goodness, like
mm,
that reminds me, that kind of takes me back.
mm,
But that's, I guess, when I kind of look at myself and I say, okay, like that does remind me of that. I don't really like that, but like I am here, I am in this moment. I am sitting in my home or my car or my office, like whatever. I'm like, I try to bring myself back to the current moment and then
mm,
like acknowledge what happened, but be like, okay, that happened.
mm,
That's a thing, but I'm here. I'm not in that
mm.
moment anymore.
I'm amazed by you. Like I assume everybody listening sort of like me. It's like I'm just processing you. Since you brought your husband up and we're allowed to go there, I want to lean into that just for a second. You married an Irishman, didn't you? Am I right about
Scott,
that?
a Scott.
I am. A Scot. Close. I knew he had the accent. So you married a Scot. I'm curious, was it difficult initially to trust a man again? Like for me, well, I won't say for me. You tell us. You tell us. Was it difficult to trust a man again, and did it take a long time to establish that?
I was scared of older men. I was scared of men around the age of my captor. I didn't want to
Mm,
be left alone with them.
mm,
That was scary to me.
mm,
But I wasn't scared around like boys my age or men my age as I got older. And I think for me it was always very, it just felt like there was a difference because I could say no, or I could walk away. Like I wasn't completely helpless or powerless. And I think that made a really big difference for me. If I was asked out on a date, I could say no if I didn't feel comfortable, or I could set boundaries for myself.
Hmm.
Um, and and so it was like the power was in me. Like I made the choices. It wasn't, I think if I came back home and it was like arranged marriages were a thing and
Yeah.
being married off to someone, my dad's age,
Oh,
and I had
God.
no power or no say in anything, I think that would have been very difficult to overcome. I don't think I'd be where I am today had that been the scenario. But because everything then coming forward and moving forward with dating and eventually meeting my husband and getting married, that was all on my terms. Like I
Mm,
always had the option to walk away at any point. I mean, I wasn't chained
mm,
up. I wasn't forced to be there. It
mm.
was always an option. And I think for me, that's what made the difference.
In some way, I'm listening to your language. I listen between words to people, right? And it's almost like you have found, maybe I'm just pointing this out to you, but like you found simple things most of us take for granted to be grateful for and to have an appreciation for because of what you went through. And I wonder if, like, in some bizarre way, that's one of the hidden, tiny, minuscule little gifts is like you are grateful for, maybe more grateful for a loving, kind, gentle man in your life. You're a little bit more grateful for freedom and relationships and family than maybe you would have been had none of that been stripped away from you. Of course, we still would not probably want these things to happen. I mean, not probably for sure. But is that sort of true of you? Do you think that's one of your secret sauces, so to speak, is that you find gratitude in things that most of us probably take for granted?
Probably, but then it's like that old saying, you don't know what you have until you lose it.
Mm,
I mean, I lost it. I lost my family. I lost my life. For
mm,
9 months, my life was stolen from me.
mm.
So, do I always remember it? And do I always have like a great altruistic look on life? No, I'm human. Like, I have
Right.
bad days and I have days where I'm cranky and
Yeah.
not grateful.
Mm,
But I try to remember. And I mean, my husband is the exact opposite from the man who kidnapped me. I mean,
yeah.
he is kind and he is gentle and he would protect me. He would do anything. He always puts me first.
Mm.
And I always try to do the same for him. Like I try to put him first and
Mm.
I try to be there for him in any way he needs me to be. And like we both try to put each other first. And I think that's how relationships should be.
I love that. I watched a little thing on the two of you, and I'm like, he's a good man. Of course, I thought he was Irish and not a Scotsman, but I get credit. It's close. It's close enough. No offense. No offense to my Irish or Scot friends. Okay, I'm sorry. Um, by the way, everybody, in case you were wondering, her captor got life and the woman got 15, which is bizarre. Served 15, which is bizarre. Um, okay, I want to get into some of the teeth of things. One thing with the SMART Foundation, there's a SMART defense. I brought it up 2 or 3 times. And I think I want you to talk to, well, men and women, but particularly women in this. How important is it, do you think, that people begin to learn to physically defend themselves?
Well, just to give you a little bit more reference on it, I was on a flight and I'd fallen asleep. I'd been upgraded to first class. I mean, who doesn't love that, especially if you
Yeah.
fly a lot? And I was so tired. I sat down on the plane and I just fell asleep. I think I fell asleep before the plane even took off. And I woke up as we were starting our descent. And it was because the man who was sitting next to me had reached over and he was rubbing my inner thigh.
Oh my gosh.
I was so shocked that I froze and I didn't know what to do. Like I remember just looking at him, waiting for him to apologize or say, excuse, like I don't know what possible excuse he could give to like justify in that moment. But I was like waiting for him to give it to me, and he never did. And I had to physically pick up his hand and take it off me. And I reported it to the airline. I reported it to the FBI. Um, but
What?
remember being so angry that that had happened to me again. And I remember thinking, like I've got to be one of the most well-known victims in America. Do I just
Yeah.
like have a huge billboard across my forehead saying like
Right.
easy target?
Yeah.
Like this is not okay. And in that moment, like you're on a plane and we're on our descent and the airline's like, stay seated, don't stand up. And so I was just like, "Ugh." And I didn't know what to do. And I thought, if I don't know what to do in that moment, and here I am, like Elizabeth Smart, what does anybody else know? It's actually the very rare kind of person that actually like responds and fights back or screams. I mean, most people, they freeze. That is
Mm,
just like, you can sit there and think, well, if that was me in that situation, I would have smacked that guy, or I would have done this, or I would have done that. And that's great. Like, I hope you do. I hope everyone does. But most of us don't. And I think it's because so many of us, particularly women, you're raised to be polite, you're raised to be kind. You're not
mhm,
really raised to say no. You're not really raised to um, really stand firm with your
mhm,
boundaries. And I think that is incredibly dangerous. That's a very dangerous situation when you add predators into the mix. Look, it's
mhm,
great to be kind. It's great to be polite. Those are good things. But
mhm,
when you have predators in the mix, that is incredibly dangerous and it
mhm,
puts everyone at risk. So
mhm.
when I got off that plane, I was like, I do not want to be that person anymore. Like, I
Yeah.
was petrified the night I was kidnapped. I just ended up doing exactly what my captor said, and I froze on this plane. Um, when the man was rubbing my leg, like, this is not okay. And so
Wow.
we started Smart Defense, which is a combination of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Muay Thai, Krav Maga, just any kind of dirty street
Awesome.
fighting you can imagine. But it's
Yep.
also very trauma informed because our director, who she is amazing, like, she's
Mhm,
so incredible. She
mhm.
is almost a head shorter than me, but she could kill me with her pinky. Like, she is a badass,
Yeah.
pardon my French.
It's all right.
But yeah, she is amazing, but she is also a survivor herself.
Wow.
And she will be the first to tell you, like, she could be raped tomorrow, even though she's like the
Mhm,
5-time world champion in her weight group in
mhm,
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like,
mhm.
she's the real deal.
Yep.
Um, so it is very trauma informed. And these are skills that we are just trying to give you. These are tools we are trying to teach you. So that should you ever find yourself in that situation, you do not feel as defenseless as maybe you would otherwise. And I think it's so amazing because I've attended the classes and I've been through the program multiple times, and like, I've held the mats and the pads for the women to strike. And I can tell you, like, a little 11-year-old girl, like, she can kick hard. She can kick
Yes.
really hard. And I've
Yeah.
held I've held mats for like 9-month pregnant women.
Mm.
Whoa, if I were her husband, I would not want to piss her off. Like, she also packs a wallet. Like, women are so strong, and I think it's easy to feel like we're not, and like, oh, I don't know how to hit. I don't know how to strike. I don't know how to kick. Like, I don't know how. And I mean, so I got into running marathons for a while, and like, I trained and trained and trained and trained and trained. Um, but if I held a race against my husband, like, he
Right.
just beats me. He's just faster than me. That's just, unfortunately, the
Mhm,
truth. Like,
mhm,
he is just faster than me. I could
mhm.
outdistance him,
Right.
but he would be faster than me.
Yeah. Mhm,
Um, And I think that that's easy to get into our minds, that men are just always stronger than us, more powerful than us.
mhm.
If a man attacks you, there's nothing you can do. But that is not true.
Yep.
You are so powerful. You are much stronger than you think you are. Like, there are things that you can do. And we're not even looking, we're not even training. Like, if you pummel the guy or the predator into the ground, fantastic. I am not going to complain about that. But
Mhm.
ultimately, what we're trying to give you are the skills to give you the opportunity to escape.
Exactly.
Injure them just enough to get away.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I hope you all heard that. By the way, you men as well, but you ladies, a couple things will benefit you. One, if you could just learn a couple of these skills that might buy you 30 seconds or 20 seconds to get away. That's number one. But number two, also just believing that you've got some of these skills and abilities will give you so much less anxiety and fear when you are in situations that, look a little bit sketchy. And so I really recommend you look into this, what Elizabeth's doing there. It's why I brought it up 3 times. Anything you've seen me do online, Shopify's probably been involved in it. I was at a speaking engagement this weekend. There were 3 other very prominent influencers there, and each of them were talking about how they use Shopify in their businesses right now, this day, just like I do. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and 10% of all e-commerce in the US is Shopify. Household names like Mattel, Gymshark, to brands that are just getting started with no clients yet. And so I can tell you, Shopify is something you need to investigate to help you with your business online. Best yet, Shopify is your e-commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. Turn your big business idea into, with Shopify on your side, sign up for your 1-month, $1 per month trial period and start selling today at shopify.com/Mylett. Go to shopify.com/Mylett. Shopify.com/Mylett. The man who shaped U.S. monetary policy just released a bombshell book called Our Dollar, Your Problem. In it, former IMF chief economist Kenneth Rogoff warns the U.S. dollar's dominance is under attack, and if the U.S. dollar falls, your savings could be at risk. That's why Advantage Gold is giving away a free copy of Rogoff's book to anyone who schedules a one-on-one precious metals appointment. Text WIN to 85545. You'll discover why gold is becoming the number one hedge against a global currency shift and how to move your IRA or 401k into physical gold. Tax and penalty free. And how to get up to $10,000 in free gold and silver with a qualifying account. Get your free copy today while supplies last. Text WIN to 85545. That's WIN 85545, or go to advantagegold.com. That's advantagegold.com. Data and message rates apply. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. The thing you brought up that I want to ask you about, and we're going to run out of time before I get to everything I want, but I'm loving this. And this is a broader question for everybody, but it comes to you as well. You said, hey, I'm sitting here in first class discussion. I'm one of the most well-known victims of all time, right? And also, because of that, you have to talk about it still a lot. And one thing people get trapped in is an identity of their trauma or an identity of their former career. I was a high school quarterback. I was the beauty queen. I was the valedictorian, or I'm a victim. And I'm going to tell you that story. And then it sort of starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you reproduce this victimhood perpetually in your life. I wonder for you how you've navigated that, because you are one of the most well-known victims of all time. And to some extent, you're going to talk about it to some extent forever, because it is such a catalyst to helping create change. How have you, or maybe you haven't, maybe you've held on to that as a reminder, but how have you kind of navigated your own identity, like who Elizabeth Smart is now? She's not a 14-year-old victim anymore. She's a married woman with a beautiful life and an incredible family she's developed and built, and makes this huge contribution to the world. How do you do that? How do you change that identity if you did?
For a long time, I think I actually really struggled with that because I had been the wallflower before I was kidnapped. Like, I was not the popular girl at school. And that was fine. That was fine. Like, I didn't need to be. I was happy just being who I was before. And so coming home, that was a very big change. All of a sudden, having people recognizing me all of the time. I think it was good that it was almost a decade before I started sharing my story and speaking. I'm so grateful to other survivors who approached me and shared their stories with me, because for the longest time, I felt like I was alone. And I felt like I was the only one who had been raped. I was the only one who had been kidnapped. I was the only one who had been forced to go through terrible things because they were not commonly talked about. I didn't hear anyone else coming forward and say, I was raped. I didn't have any friends say, I'm abused at home, or nobody talked about what the kinds of things that happen behind closed doors. So I felt very, very alone. So as time went on and I began to meet other survivors, I am so grateful to them for letting me know that I was not the only one who had experienced this. And now, I mean, they say 1 in 3 women, girls, experience sexual abuse in their lifetime. Like, that is a horrific statistic. And I bet it's probably even worse than that because there's so many cases where nobody ever says anything. And so whether you consciously know someone who has been abused, um, like they've told you, whether they've told you or not, you do actually know someone because statistically, it's impossible. If you know 3 women, you know someone who's been abused.
That just blows my mind. You said earlier that when you're talking in a room that you know that you're not the only one in there. And it just made me think, I speak all over the world. Like I never think about that, like someone in this room in the front row, more than likely, if there's 3 women in the front row, have suffered some form of this abuse. And so many of us just go through our lives, people are invisible, or we judge, or we criticize, or and you don't know someone's story. You know Elizabeth's story, but the vast majority of people, you don't know what they've been through or what they're currently going through. We'd all be a lot better off if we gave each other a little bit more grace and a little bit more love and kindness. It's one of the things I love about this show is I think we do that for people. Elizabeth, I've watched you really close today. You really don't get that emotional when you talk about your situation. And even when you brought up different situations today, where your face has changed twice? And by the way, and when you step into your power, it's almost like the Holy Spirit's all over you when you start to talk, you even speak differently, is when you speak of these other women who are survivors. You light up and you get emotional. Your face changes. And I just wonder, is that just so heavy on your heart? I mean, you definitely shift when you begin to talk about the trauma other people, other women have gone through. I don't see it when you talk about your own as much as I see it when you talk about other women. And I'm just wondering, is that just close to your heart all the time? Has it made a huge impact on you as you travel and speak and meet these women? They're not just like, they're real people with real faces and real lives and real children. And I just wonder, does that speak to your heart? Because I can see it on your face.
Yes. Um, yes. And just the fact that uh so many of them suffer in silence or they don't have the support that I've had. I don't know if anyone's ever had the support that I've had. Like my word was never questioned. I never had to try to convince someone that I was kidnapped or that I was abused. Like that was always known, believed 100%. I mean, sure. There's like the few, you
Mm-hmm.
know, there's always
Wackos, fringe wackos, but yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But really, like my word has never been doubted. And I think I'm so grateful for that. I think that's why I'm where I am today. Because I think of the fact that most victims know the person who is abusing them. Usually it's someone that they trust or someone who is close to them. And I just think, you know what? I am so lucky that what happened to me came at the hands of a stranger because I don't go to bed at night and I'm not scared who's going to crawl into bed next to me. I don't come home at the end of the day scared of the situation that I'm going to enter into. I know that if I have a hard day, I have a support system at home there for me. I know that if I say something like this happened or this happened, I'm believed. I'm not turned around and questioned and I'm not asked, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Well, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you report it to the police? Because so many victims are. And when they hear those words, why didn't you? They hear the words you should have. That's how like their brain hears it. You should have done more. It's your fault. You should have done something else. Or when it's, a family member, that makes it extra difficult. Like, how are you expected to move forward with your life when it's, again, someone who should have protected you, someone who should have loved you, someone who definitely should not have been hurting you. And maybe it's divided your family. Maybe some of your family believes you, and maybe some of your family's like, no, they would never do that. They're such a good person. We love them. How dare you say that? I mean, how impossible of a situation is that? Or just don't say anything. We'll have a word with them. Don't say anything. This is just going to go away. How unfair is that? How impossible is that? How is that victim supposed to move forward? How could they ever trust again? I mean, the level of betrayal for just abuse across the board is huge. But if it's by someone that you know, someone that you love, or maybe the people that you love, like how do you overcome that?
Mm.
And that is what is most common. Like My story is almost the exception.
Mhm.
This is like what's happened. This is what
Mhm.
happens mostly.
Two things. One, you definitely use gratitude about you do that. I'm right about that. That's part of your map. And the other thing is, I'm just thinking, how extraordinary, how remarkable is it that this little girl who was completely defenseless and couldn't protect herself has now become this massive protector of women that are victims, people that are victims, and that she's the protector now. She's the advocate now. She's the one who stands up for them. I want you to all just think about that just for a second. Go back, go all the way back to 2002 when this little girl is taken from her family and is suffering unspeakable and immeasurable harm, totally defenseless, can't protect herself. And now, flash forward, and she's the protector and the advocate for people just like her. It's extraordinary. It's remarkable how strong you are. And I really, I just met you. I'm proud of you and I love you. I'm in awe of you. I think you're extraordinary. I just need to tell you that. So, yeah, it's just the truth. It's just the truth. And by the way, all of you, what an example that if you've gone through something or you're going through something, that when you get to the other side, how qualified you will be to protect and help people just like you. And it'll be the work of your life. You'll be just like this woman. She lights up when that topic comes. There's a strength to her and a spirit that shifts when this topic comes up. And that's the one gift from all of this, I imagine, in her life. All right, last question. I want to ask you about kids. Um, as parents or aunties or uncles or big brother or big sister, if you were to give any of us advice, I mean, you were taken from your home. I mean, there's not a whole lot your family could have done any different. But are there things proactively, us as parents, grandparents, that you would recommend we do to, create some level of greater safety for our children, whether that be online or in person type abuse that people suffer? What would you impart? You're obviously in this world all the time. What would you tell us?
Love your kids unconditionally and make sure they know it.
Mm,
And then followed closely by lots of open communication.
mm. Do you do that? I mean, are you an open, communicator with yours?
I mean, I try. I'm not perfect.
Mm,
I do my best.
yeah. I think that your humility is just takes my breath away. Someone who's gone through what you've gone through in your life. I can tell you one thing. I'll give you a compliment. You're exactly how I hoped you would be. You're kind and strong, but you're on the other side of this in a dramatic way, and you've really used it to be a force for good in the world. And it's exactly what I would have hoped. And I'm really grateful that you were here today. I know when I'm doing an episode that's like one of the all timers, I just know. I've been doing it long enough. I've done about 900 of them. And I know when I'm doing one that's going to be like echoing, throughout the internet and social media. And this will be one. Thanks to you, Elizabeth. So thank you. What do you want to tell us about the Smart Foundation that we haven't said? Where can they go to find out more about it? I want to make sure we've talked about it, but where do they go to get some info?
Yes. First of all, thank you. Thank you for all the kind words you've said.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Elizabeth Smart Foundation. We are online, elizabethsmartfoundation.org. We're on social media. You can just type in Elizabeth Smart Foundation. I'm sure it'll pop right up. There are so many things that I want to do. I mean, I feel like what some of the things we've talked about, smart defense, we have more programs, just more than that. That's what we mostly talked about today. But to
Mm-hmm.
learn more about them, please do. Please go to our website. Please check us out. There is so much more I still want to do. And we
Mm-hmm.
did talk a little bit about that today, like intimacy versus
Yep.
abuse versus rape. There is so much more I want to do. So please learn. Please have conversations in your own homes. Please become the kind of person that if anyone disclosed to you, that you could sit there and listen to them, that you could sit there and be a support to them, and that your
Mm-hmm.
first words are not, why didn't you do this? And that your first words instead are, I believe you. How can I help
Mm-hmm.
you? I'm here for you. I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kinds of words you should be responding with. And if we're all talking about this and we're all learning about this and we're all paying attention to this and standing up for those around us when we see something suspicious going on, think of how much change we could actually create in this world. We could see the statistics drop. And wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be incredible?
Yeah, it would be. And it'll happen because thanks to you. This 1 in 3 thing, I can't get out of my head. I cannot get that out of my head. So I have 3 sisters and a daughter. And so, yeah, you got me there. Anyway, you let me know when we're done. Let me know how I can help. Okay. Let's just, I'm going to have my producer connect with your team there and we'll figure out how I can help. Okay. I would like to do that. All right, Elizabeth, thank you for doing this. Everybody, share this. I mean, share it. Yeah, share it with anyone who's gone through anything difficult, is going through anything difficult, anyone who's got children, anyone who's got a family, anybody that you know who may be suffering any type of abuse right now in any form, send this to them, please. All right. God bless you, everybody. Max out.